Battle of the streaming boxes. Ding, ding, ding. Welcome back to another awesome video.
Today we're going to compare our do-it-yourself Volumio music player to this Arylic S50 Pro Plus. These boxes allow you to play music from your personal library, internet music services, or your phone.
Which you can also use Spotify.
Yes. The concept here is like that of a CD player, except the digital music comes from the network instead of a physical disc. And you can use these types of streamers as components for a home stereo system like I've done here, or maybe with outdoor speakers. Or if you have more than one, play synchronized multi-room audio throughout your house, which we'll show in a minute. Volumio is a free software product. You download and install it on Raspberry Pi or other commodity hardware. We've done 2 other videos on that, and the Arylic S50 Pro is a professional piece of hardware that costs over $200. So you would think that the Arylic would blow Volumio out of the water, but that was not the case. We'll go into the reasons for that in this video as we compare different features, but if you just want the bottom line review, here it is. Volumio is more mature software. That's all it is, it's software, but it's a better software experience. The Arylic is better hardware, better form factor, and less DIY to get going. But before we get into the features, let's talk about money.
Cha-ching!
The hardware setups you see here are actually very similar in cost. By the time you buy a Raspberry Pi, all the accessories, touchscreen, and DAC, the amount you spend on hardware is not much less than the Arylic S50 Pro Plus. You can also get into both of these platforms much cheaper without a local display and controls. If you just want to hide the box entirely, both platforms have lower cost entry points, from plain looking boxes to raw circuit boards you can buy. In addition to the S50 Pro Plus, we also purchased an Upstream 2 Mini version 3 to try out Multiroom Playback, which it does really well, and we'll show that in a minute. So let's talk about ongoing software cost after the initial purchase. Obviously, you still have to pay for any premium services like Tidal, but to use the platform, there is no additional fee whatsoever for Arylic. Volumio, on the other hand, has a free tier and a paid tier, and the free tier is of course free, but you don't have some features like Bluetooth, which you get with Arylic. I don't mind paying extra for better features from Volumio, but I wish it were like a lifetime subscription. I really don't want an account, and I really don't want this to be a recurring payment. They also changed their policy, which means I can't install plugins on it without having an account with them, which sort of bricked my device when I upgraded, so I restored from a backup. Anyway, I'm going to declare Arylic the winner in terms of ongoing software cost. Now let's talk about the web user interface. Right after I set up the Arylic box, it got an IP address, I plugged in Ethernet, I was going to go log in and update the firmware on the website, and that's about all I could do. And it gets even weirder because it didn't show up in Chrome, it only showed up in Microsoft Edge. And then a later firmware update actually broke it. So it's not even a contest here. From a website perspective, Volumio steals the show here because the web interface actually works. If you end up purchasing the Arylic, plan on using the 4Stream app, which works really well, and you use that to control it and update firmware. I found that to be a much better experience, and it does seem like they are updating the web UI, so it should get better. Although even within the app, I don't understand some of the choices they made. For example, there's a button right up front that lets you isolate left channel, right channel, or stereo, where you can accidentally press it. It seems like this button would be in a setup screen, not sure of the thinking here.
Right channel. Stereo. Left channel. Right channel. Stereo.
Now let's talk about playing back your local music files either from a network or a flash drive. So Volumio can do something that Arylic can't, and that is connect directly to your Windows file share. Now that's not very common. A lot of devices will require a UPnP server, and Arylic is just like that, and it works fine. So this may or may not be a deal breaker, but it's just a different approach. And you know, Volumio builds its own little database of your music, so you can do things like search. So it does a little more in this area. I threw a bunch of different file formats at both devices. They handled them all: FLAC, WAV, MP3. However, in listening to the Arylic device, I found some old MP3s from like 10 years ago that would not play. I just got a burst of static. And there was nothing I could tell that was unusual about these MP3s. The solution for me was to go back, pull out the CDs, and re-encode them using the WinLame encoder. So undoubtedly I used some weird setting when I encoded these MP3s originally. Now let's talk about streaming services. In this area, Arylic is clearly superior. You just get more streaming services out of the box. Now I'm comparing that to the free version of Volumio. Both can do Pandora, but with the Arylic, I could get all my Amazon music previously purchased. I could get Spotify with a free account, and you can also assign buttons of playlists to the remote control, which is really convenient for recalling a radio station or a playlist within Pandora, for example. Next up, Multiroom synchronized playback. This is a pretty cool feature. We added this upstream to Mini, and you can synchronize it to the main device. For the sake of demo purposes, the Mini is hooked up to the boombox, and the other one is on the stereo. Let's try it out. I don't know if you noticed, but once the second one started playing, it took a second or two, and then the echo went away, and they were almost in perfect sync. The interface is really intuitive. You just form these groups by hitting the little group button, and it works fine. I could see this as being sort of the basis for a multi-room audio system. And what gets even more interesting is you can stream analog sources. So I could take a tape deck or an 8-track player and stream it throughout the house. This would be useful if you wanted to stream the output of another mixer or preamplifier or Bluetooth or whatever everywhere. Multiroom is why I first looked into this Arylic product. Being able to simply send different sounds to different rooms or synchronize them, that's kind of cool. Volumio Paid Edition also has this, and from what I could tell online, it looks just as easy to use, if not better. However, there is that monthly fee to use it. My final topic in the video is going to be automation. How do I control these devices with code? They both have APIs or application programming interfaces. What I really want to do is be able to pick up a phone and start playing music and have a network stereo receiver come on automatically. Volumio, being software, does this a lot better. In a previous video, I showed how I can basically inject my own code so that it automatically powers up my receiver when I start playing music. Now, like I said, Arylic does have an API, and they do have a 12-volt relay output, which might be suitable if your system has like a physical power switch. But I just need a network message to be sent. I could not find a way to use like a webhook approach. What I ended up doing is writing a small C# app that just polls the system repeatedly, which is kind of hacky and less self-contained, but it works. So now let's wrap it up with some final thoughts. What do I think? Well, initially, I was a little disappointed in the rough edges around the Arylic, but I like the way it feels, and I can see if they keep improving it, these rough edges might go away. You do notice a lot of things, like for example, here's this UI. I did get it to work on the up-to-stream Mini, but you can see it spewing errors on the right. It doesn't really work yet. And look at all the weird URLs that are sort of interspersed in the metadata on Amazon. Here's another example. This title of this song is Right Down the Line, and it throws an extra space in there as it scrolls the first time, but not the second time. So just some rough edges in the software that you get on Arylic that you don't see on Volumio. But these rough edges may not even matter if you just want to sit down and press a button on a remote and play some streaming music with an out-of-the-box experience that doesn't involve a lot of configuration, and you only pay for it once. Anyway. That's all, and please feel free to comment, subscribe, like, dislike, anything that'll help get us more views.
Dislike doesn't help.
Well, actually, I think it does, because the more actions we get, the more revenue, and then we can afford to buy and review more devices like this in the future. So anyway, that's all about it.
And see you next time for another awesome video. Maybe someday we'll review a Lamborghini.
I don't know about that.